Whenever you start a new job or project or change teams, there's some sort of onboarding. Setting everything up can take a ton of time. Anand Rao, Advisory Platform Architect, and Chris Phillipson, Solutions Engineering Manager at VMware, will give us tips to make onboarding suck less. Now to you two.
Greetings, everybody. I'm Chris Phillipson. I'm a Solutions Engineering Manager with VMware Tanzu. I've got about 2 decades worth of experience in software development, support, consulting, and sales, and with a recent focus on Kubernetes and open source evangelism. And I'm joined by Anand.
How's it going? Good afternoon, everybody. Anand Rao, a solutions engineer out here in the San Francisco Bay Area. As Chris said, similar to him, almost a couple of decades of experience in the development and platforms world. I've been helping a lot of large and small customers, do the right things and then change the way they build and deploy software in the last couple of years. So that's where we are.
All right, and we're here to give a kind of a cheeky talk on making onboarding suck less, but with maybe a focus on the tool sets and how, well, a way that they might be assembled and delivered. So first off, as usual, any statements or opinions shared here are not representative of our employer. So starting off again, kind of cheeky, I think we can all agree that onboarding and your onboarding experience can vary, whether you're starting a new role at a company, joining a team, maybe switching roles. There's all kinds of challenges, positives and frustrations in kind of getting started. And we want to kind of review that with you here.
And when we talk about tools, why do I need a tool? What do I need to do with tools, right? I need tools to accomplish my job on a day-to-day basis. And another key thing that you need to always think about is you want the right tool for the right job. You don't want to use a square peg on a round hole, right? So definitely having the right tools for the right job makes it more productive for you as an individual. But then you switch the coin and say, what does the organization have to do with it? Like you as an organization, as an enterprise, you want to have consistency. You want to make sure that your developers, your operators are more productive as they go through their day-to-day operations or day-to-day development life cycles. So having a process in place, having a tool set in place that can be onboarded very quickly, and then actually it's the reverse as well, right? Onboarding a developer, onboarding an operator to their jobs as quickly as possible is going to be a big factor in making it productive. So it could be, as Chris said, right, joining a new team, kicking off a new project, starting a new application, I'm starting to own a new infrastructure. All of these pieces need the right tools for the right job. And not only just the tools, you need the tool bag or the tool set. Like an electrician works best with the right tools for him. A carpenter works best with the right tools for him, right? So you want to make sure that is available. So as an organization, you want to bring that to your employees.
And so if we think about moving towards the desired state, I was reading literally a couple of days ago the 2021 State of DevOps report. And one of the findings that kind of stood out for me was that around 60% of organizations have made an investment in automation, right, to help move along software development, getting product out the door, automating registration for new systems, shipping software, right? So the thing is, being good at automation isn't the only thing. You have to overcome some of the organizational challenges. I think we've seen, and you might agree that the organizational challenges that folks face are the things that are introducing friction. you've got personnel issues, maybe you've got skills shortages, maybe you haven't been paying attention and you've been living underneath a rock and you haven't been introducing automation in the workplace. Maybe you're unclear on your goals and objectives. What we see is that with high-performing organizations, and we look at teams, those teams have, a high autonomy. It's well understood what they do. They have clear responsibilities and they can communicate very well. So if you're an organization looking to move to embracing automation, you need to first focus on what is that doing for you and realize that there's a need for, better communication, collaboration. And when you've kind of understood that, accepted it, acknowledged it, then you can move on to, standardizing selection of tools, working on automation with the ultimate goal of self-service. You want your employees to be able to take care of whatever needs they have without a bunch of artifice and process and red tape to go through.
So now when we talk about the tool set, right, we talked about the culture, we talked about how we need to adopt the new stuff and adapt to the changing environments that we're working in. Previously we used to focus on working on a desktop. The work environment used to be like, I go in, I get a Windows desktop, and I do all of my development on my Windows desktop, and that's about it. But those days are gone, and right now the whole culture and the needs are such that you have to be on your desktop, you have to be on the cloud, you have to be on someone else's network. You might be in a network where you have restricted access. So where do I do my work? That's a big question that decides what tool sets you need, right? I might be working, as I said, in a laptop or a workstation, which might need my host OS to have all those tools. Or maybe I just start up a new VM. I could use any tools that are available. It could be VMware's Fusion on a Mac, or you could use Vagrant or Docker or other ways to start up the tool set as a subsystem in your host OS, or use the host OS itself. Or like when you come in from an enterprise perspective, there's going to be standards, there's going to be key aspects that you need to take care of. So you might be only allowed to run these tool sets on VMs or Kubernetes clusters, which might be available for you outside of your local desktop. And then the new aspect that we are working with is everything, like a lot of our customers, a lot of our enterprise users are moving to adopting public cloud. When that comes to the picture, your applications are running in the public cloud, your platforms are running in the public cloud. When that is the case, you might have a need where you're running your tools from a jump box or some other host on the public cloud. So you connect into that and then run your tools from there. And the last part is, there are so many available on-demand services. Like, for example, GitHub is coming up with this amazing tool set called GitHub Spaces. AWS has always had the Cloud9 environment where they have pre-packaged, pre-curated set of tools available for you on demand. So any of these places might be where you're supposed to work on, or you might be asked to work on, because it might not even be a choice for you, right? And then we switch over to what's the work to be done, right? I might need my work that is needed to be done by me, or the ask from me could be constantly changing, evolving, right? Today I might be maintaining and managing a simple application. Tomorrow I might be managing and maintaining a cloud environment. So my needs are going to evolve, and as my needs evolve, I need to be ready to evolve into newer tool sets and newer tools, right? So that's another key thing. Then we need to make sure that on a daily basis, we are able to support all of the activities that we need to accomplish. That's not a given, right? You want to make sure that you're delivering the goods that you're expected to. And the third part I want to discuss in this adoption criteria is the persona, right? You might, as we already talked a little bit about it, the developer persona needs a certain set of IDEs. They might need compilers, they might need debuggers and things like that. Whereas an operator persona needs more about how do I manage my infrastructure, how do I manage my applications, and deploy them and manage them and observe them and all of that, right? So each persona might need a different set of tools. So it's not like a one tool set fits all. it has to be persona based, and we have to have those grouped together. And then the last part I want to talk in here is collaboration loops, right? In our world, we talk a lot with customers saying we have this concept called inner loop and an outer loop. What's an inner loop? Inner loop is a developer loop where a developer is writing code, applying those changes into a test environment, getting immediate feedback, making changes based on the feedback, and going through that loop multiple times in a single day. That loop needs a special set of tools that has to be applied in there or used in there, right? And then there's the outer loop, as we call it, where the developer hands off the code that's completed in the hands of an operator or a DevOps person, who will take that and push that into a production or a production-like environment, make sure that's managed and maintained and taken care of. So and then you get a larger feedback coming back from the production loop. So these inner loops and outer loops might need different set of tools, different set of tool sets, different set of curation process. So all of these factor right into how easily a tool set is going to be adopted.
So I want to spend a little bit of time kind of teeing up the notion of a factory, because what we're really trying to do here with automation is focus on how we can do the curation and make it repeatable and consistent and scalable. So, Anand talked about the tool sets, right? These are the curated set of tools that people use to do their job based on persona. We want to create a factory for producing those tool sets. And when we do that, we need to be thinking about things like package management. If we approach the idea from sort of operating systems, Windows, you can go and look at things like, Chocolate and Scoop. Linux, depending on the flavor, you could be looking at apt or yum. And Mac, of course, there's, Homebrew. But then, of course, while these package management systems make it easy to consume software, you need to manage the exceptions. And so if you're going out and looking at commercial tools, those aren't necessarily as easily onboarded. You need to be thinking about how you might bring in and manage them in your corporate environment. And so you need to build kind of an exception process and onboarding for those complement of tools. And then go ahead.
Switch back to our previous slide. We need to talk a little bit about the curators and the consumers.
Oh, I did skip that, but let me finish my thought. I'll get back to that. I did skip ahead on that. So, sorry. Thanks for keeping me honest. And then, you want to be able to take in new requests for tools. So, you're not going to be standing around with a static set of tools. They're evolving, as Anand had mentioned. And so you want to treat your factory as a product itself, and it needs to be maintained and updated. And so coming back to kind of the two roles that we often find in the enterprise, it's those folks who are curating the tools and those folks who are consuming them, right? So curators are building those tool sets for the consumers. And we have a couple of personas, like the consumer. An example would be a software engineer. A curator oftentimes is somebody in IT ops, right? And if you walk through the bullets here, this is just kind of coming from their perspective in their world. These are the things that they're trying to do. These are the problems that they're trying to solve. This is the work they're trying to do.
And just double clicking on what you said there, Chris, just if we go into the factory part of the world in the next slide, what is the driver for having the factory is going to be, when you ask that question as to what drives the need for a factory, the reduction of toil, not only for the consumers here, reduction of toil for the curators, that is a big driver for creating the factory, right? Because you want to make sure that as a curator, you have a process that's in place that's automatically taking care of new updates to versions, new tools to be added, a process in place for new tools to be requested, and having all of that in a well-oiled process takes care of the getting rid of the tile or reducing the tile for the curator to manage that factory as a process, toolset as a product as well. So let's look at a sample factory that we have curated, and we'll go from there.
Right. So, as noted at the top of the talk, this is a way. This is not the way. And so the focus here is on the idea of that it's a good idea to build a factory for curating tool sets. So if you let your eye wander over to the far left, you have your curator, and the curator is using a set of tools, for example, Packer, Vagrant, VirtualBox, to build images that can be consumed either on the desktop or in the cloud, right? And these images start with an operating system. Those are some examples. Those are not all the examples. You have Windows, Mac, and Ubuntu Linux. And then if the curator has been listening to the consumer, there are tools that the consumer needs to do their job. So they will curate those tool sets and package them. So we'll use Packer and Vagrant. Packer for building cloud images and Vagrant for building desktop images. And then what we'll use in between to kind of deliver and automate production and distribution of these tool sets is something like a CI engine like Jenkins or GitHub or GitLab. And all of these pipelines that we would create would be specific for these different tool sets. And you, of course, then have flavors of how they are packaged and delivered. And they ultimately wind up as I mentioned, public cloud images. Maybe it's an AMI in Amazon, or it's an Azure VM image or a Google Compute image. Could just as well be a VMDK or, even a Docker container if you want to go that lightweight. And now where do these images reside? If you're thinking about corporate environment, you would place them in some kind of image repository, and Artifactory is a good choice. If you're working in the cloud, well, the clouds have their various storage systems for these different images. And then as a consumer, when we want to pull down and make use of these images, if I'm on my workstation, I might have some virtualization software installed, VirtualBox, VMware Fusion, Parallels, and I just pull the image from my corporate repository and light it up and get to work. Likewise, if I'm meant to do some work in the cloud, I could consult the library of images in the public cloud and instantiate an instance and then get to work. So we'd like to do a little demo now of the work we've done to kind of realize this sample factory. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump to this GitHub repository. And this GitHub repository reviews what are the prerequisites, the things that the curator is going to need to have installed in order to kind of produce these tool sets. And then what are the scripts to kind of quickly get started with those tools? And then what are the tools that we're using to curate the tool sets? And of course, some examples here. So let's dig into some of those examples. First off, what I want to do is show you where some of these images reside in the public cloud. How do they get there? We use some automation, and in GitHub, there's GitHub Actions. And if we look here at a number of these actions that may have been triggered from introduction of new features and capabilities, we can see one such action was responsible for producing an AMI on AWS. So if we drill in here and we take a look at the build, we can see that there's a number of steps, right? There's setting up the job, there's copying some resources into place, checking out the code, right? Copying some shell scripts into place, and then using Packer, and then Packer basically gets to work producing the image, right? And once we're done, we wind up with an AMI. And that AMI, if we look here, we can see we've got one in an AWS account. And then I can go ahead and, as a consumer, if I know about this AMI that's been made public for my use, I can start up an instance, right? So we can see that we have an instance running here. And if I go to my terminal, right, I can show you that I'm actually in the image, and maybe we want to take a look at what do we have available to us. And I want to get myself into this directory. Right? And if I do inventory, I will start to get a listing of all of the software that is available and has been installed on this image in the versions. So as a curator, when I'm producing the image, I can embed something in my image to let the consumer know what tools are available in the image. Likewise, we can see in Azure that I've done the same and produced an image in Azure, and then I've started up a VM here, right? And then as well in Google, we've produced an image and we've lit up an instance. If I check back in my terminal, here we are in Azure, and here we are in Google. Last thing that I'd like to leave you with is, hey, I might need to do some work locally. I've got a virtualization. I could have used VMware Fusion or Parallels, but I'm choosing to use VirtualBox, and I've produced some images here. This might be useful if you want to have a full-on desktop experience instead of just working at the command line. And so if we go back into the presentation here.
Just to double click on that, Chris, a few things that we want to emphasize here is, as Chris said at the beginning of the demo, this was more of a sample curation, sample set of tools, sample process to build a tool set and consume it as well. What we would urge people to do is identify what's right for them, identify the right tool set, identify the target environment they're going to run it in, identify the security restrictions or the enforcement that's being done on you. A lot of those factors decide your tools, your tool sets, your process, and your consumption. So make sure you build an end-to-end process for yourself that meets your needs and your organization's needs. And that is the gist of what we're trying to show here, more than being prescriptive about what tools or what tool sets or what process to use.
Very good point, Anand. So we'd like to thank you. Everything that we showed you today is available. You can go hit the GitHub repo link, and you can follow us on Twitter. And we'd like to leave you with a few links to some material that sort of inspired us to put this talk together. Thank you very much.
And I would also welcome all of you to join our Q&A session. Chris and I would love to get your thoughts on all the stuff that we talked about, because for us, it's a constant learning process as well. So we'd love to hear from you as to what matters to you and how you're trying to solve these problems.
Thanks, Anand and Chris. Head over to the Slack channel for this talk to join the Q&A now.